Hello everyone. Today I have for you my Dark Effigy build that I've been working on since my last video about Demon Form. I've actually stripped down my Demon Form character, I'm not doing that anymore. I am Totem build now with Dark Effigy. So I have my Maxwell page for you, which I kind of like more than Mobalytics. It was a lot easier to input all the information in this website. Just a little opinion there. But you can see here how I rate my build at the moment. The complexity is kind of high. We have a lot of abilities that we have to press very frequently. The gearing, it's expensive to get it to the point where it's pretty good build. Right now I'm calling it good. It's a good build. It might be great, and it is definitely not a Giga Blaster. It's not the best skill, but it is working out very good, and you'll see it. So the gear can be expensive. I have an Adorn Jewel, I have an Ingenuity Belt, I have some other expensive uniques on my build. This isn't expensive unless you get it corrupted, which I do. But yeah, the clear speed in maps is not the greatest. This definitely has a potential to go up when I improve the build a little bit more. The bossing is very good and also has potential to go up. And I think the defense is going to stay here or go down depending on how I have to change the DPS to improve these two. But yeah, you can check out this page. It's in the description, but I have a nice long video explaining everything and all my thoughts into the build and all the work I put into it. So let's go right into it. Okay, so how does Dark Effigy actually work? Because you can see here that he's not shooting at this enemy attacking him. Well, to get Dark Effigy to shoot, you have to apply a Chaos Dot to an enemy, and then he'll shoot at them. And you can see that I cast Contagion on that one enemy, and then it spread it to the other enemy, so then they started shooting at the other enemy also. If you just hit all the enemies at once, it'll start shooting at all of them, and, well, if he's still there, and kill him off like that. I mean, that's not a lot of damage, but I took off a bunch of my damage for the example. So the more Chaos Dots we apply to the enemy, basically the more damage we do, and I'll show you that. I'll show it on the boss. Right here, we apply one, you can see how fast it shoots. And if we apply another, then it's shooting twice as fast. And if we apply another, it's shooting 3 times as fast. And then we also, on our passive tree, I have poison on hit on a couple jewels. So the totem will actually apply its own Chaos Dot, and we'll get it shooting very fast here. And then when you stack up 3 of these, and Flame Wall, and Eye of Winter, it just starts to shred. Okay, so turning back on all the damage on this build, we have Archmage for lightning damage, and we'll look at the tooltip here. Dark Effigy is just the totem itself, and it doesn't really do much, but the spell that it casts is Vile Effusion. And you can see here on the tooltip page, it does chaos damage normally, and then we are also adding on the lightning damage with Archmage. It's giving us a lot more lightning damage than chaos damage, so that's why I have on Conductivity over Despair. And our DPS it looks low, but I'm pretty sure this is based on if you cast one totem and it's shooting one chaos, shooting at one chaos dot. So it's just the pew, pew. So when we add on more projectiles and more totems, the DPS gets a lot higher. We can cast 3 totems and put on 4 chaos dots. So math time, that is. So 13,666 times 3 totems times 4 projectiles is about 164,000 DPS. And that is without Conductivity or Flame Wall for the projectiles to shoot through and get added fire damage. And then Eye of Winter basically gives it more critical chance. So when you do all of these together, I have timed multiple bosses' health, and it's about 500,000 DPS when you add in everything together. And so throughout the video, when I'm talking about my damage, I'm actually talking about the totems damage. The thing about totems is they take your stats, but not your defensive ones. Basically takes all your offensive and uses it as their own. So when I increase my cast speed, I'm actually increasing the totem's cast speed. When I increase my spell damage, I'm actually increasing the totem's spell damage because Vile Effusion is a spell, and so on and so forth, with critical chance, critical damage, and everything else that's offensive. Okay, so I think looking at the Ascendancy, it's probably a good way to start explaining the build. We have to take Altered Flesh, which is not doing much for us, with the cold and lightning damage being taken as fire damage, because our fire resistance is equal to our cold and lightning resistance. But we are getting a little bit of physical damage reduction by taking it as chaos, since we have 75% chaos resistance on the build. The main reason I'm going this way is clearly for these 3 nodes, which reserve 25% of my life each, so I reserve 75% of my life. That means that it is blocked off from healing past the 25% point, but we still have 2,171 maximum life, so any calculation that uses maximum life is using that number, which these nodes are. So we're getting energy shield per 8 maximum life, 1 spirit per 25 maximum life, and 1 mana per 6 maximum life. This is just very synergistic with our build. The mana is giving us damage through Archmage. The spirit, we're using spirit for damage with the unique we have, and then also the more spirit we have, the more spirit gems we can put on, and the more totems that we can summon with the keystone that we have, and then more energy shield. Energy shield is our main health pool, so just more of that. And the reason I'm taking all these is not just because more stats good, but reserving 75% of our life always keeps us at low life. And there's a couple things that take advantage of low life. The first one here is Pain Attunement, and when you are on low life, you get 30% more critical damage bonus, so this is multiplicative to critical damage bonus. And as I said, we're at 25% life, and low life is below 35% life, as it says here. There's also another node, our cast speed up here. If we were at full life, we would have less cast speed, but since we're on low life, we always have 20% increased cast speed. So we're taking advantage of those nodes, we're getting a lot of stats, and it's giving us permanent low life for those big stat boosts. Of course, there is the node here, I guess I have to talk about it. Grinning Immolation on the Infernalist. I was when I was leveling with this build or using it before I got my Ingenuity belt, I actually was at 50% reserved life, and I wasn't taking the energy shield, and then I was taking this Grinning Immolation node, and I was taking Pain Attunement, but you're like, but you're only at 50% life, so you weren't on low life. Well, I was, because of this unique belt here. It actually considers you on low life at 75% of your maximum life or below. This one's corrupted, so it's higher, but it didn't really matter. It was just more so I could get more dexterity. But yeah, so I was getting a lot of critical damage bonus that way. But the Ingenuity belt actually is more DPS, and I also get that energy shield. And this is more DPS because we have cast speed on our rings. So shooting more projectiles is more damage, not just because it's doing better than the extra critical damage bonus. I would have to say that the main issue on the build that has been solved is the amount of spells we have to cast and the amount of time that it takes to cast the next one. So getting a lot of cast speed was very important, and that was solved with the rings also, and then being on low life, and then also picking up this node here, 16% increased cast speed, but our skills cost more, but mana is not really a problem on this build. So more cast speed was great, but there's also, with totems, there is totem placement speed, and we are increasing that with the Jewel Ancestral Urgency, but even 80% is not enough, I believe. So what I have done is I do have an adorned jewel on my tree, so all other jewels that are magic and corrupted will have 87% increased effect. The highest this can be is 100%, and the lowest is 0%, but 100% is very expensive, so I settled with 87%. And we have increased totem placement speed on these, and increased totem life. I have a few of these. This one is it. There is, I think the other one is down here. Yes, so I have 3 of those. So this is giving us probably like another 100% increased totem placement speed. You can see how just fast that is. It's very necessary, in my opinion. And then also you can see that we have weapon swap allocations on here. And the weapon swap actually has a speed that you can change, and it is not based on your cast speed. Obviously, like once you swap the weapon and then you're casting, your cast speed is coming into play, but the weapon swapping on its own is kind of slow. So I did take one jewel that has increased Totem Life, but it has 25% increased weapon swap speed. This was actually a great change. This is just necessary and might be worth it on anyone's build that is using weapon swap. I have already shown you that I have chance to poison on hit on my jewels here, and then also increase projectile speed, because the projectile from Dark Effigy just shoots at where the enemy is. If the enemy moves, then it won't hit them. Well, it never actually hits the enemy. What it does is it's shot at the enemy's location and then creates a little AoE splash on the ground. By default, it is 0.8 meters. And for some reason, it is very hard to actually change the radius of it. Like you can see here, I will pull up the radius. Impact radius is 0.8 meters. And with this jewel, we are supporting it with 40% more area of effect. And it only went up by 0.1. I don't understand why it goes up by so little with a multiplicative increase. If you do the math, that's not correct. But yeah, so I don't spec into trying to make the AoE bigger. I just spec into trying to get the projectile there faster. So that's why I use those jewels. And the last jewel that we use here is the Prism of Belief Diamond, where it gives it +3 level of all Dark Effigy skills. If you're using a meta skill, this can be very expensive, but since we're using Dark Effigy and no one gives a damn about this, getting levels on this ability besides literally just me, this was very cheap. This was like 2 divines, and raising the level of spells is a very strong way to increase its damage. Okay, so coming back to all my cast speed and all my totem placement speed, I also anointed acceleration onto my amulet. It gives me 3% movement speed, which is really not significant, but it does give me 10% increased skill speed, which is just a multiplier to cast speed and everything else. It is basically action speed, more or less, from PoE 1, but only for skills, and it's just going to make it all quicker. And this actually does give a very small DPS increase to the Dark Effigy Vile Effusion spell, so there might be something better to allocate, but it was just something I did a while ago and I haven't thought more about it lately. So moving on to the damage of the build, basically all of our spell damage is coming from here. This is a unique that I don't care about anything else on it besides 15% increased spell damage per 10 spirit. We have 571 spirit, which means this is 855% increased spell damage. So this is good because now we don't need to take increased lightning damage or increased chaos damage, which would be basically wasting points on the passive tree or on our weapons for like the other type of damage. The spell damage is increasing both types of those damage, and we can just use all our points on the tree for other things, which is really nice. Also, we don't really need a weapon to increase our spell damage. A wand does increase the DPS on the build much higher, especially with increased levels to chaos spell skill gems, and then you can get some spell damage, crit chance, crit damage, cast speed, mana. Those things would be a perfect wand, very expensive, but I would lose 222 spirit, so I wouldn't be able to cast as many totems, because I don't think I've shown this, but I'm casting all these totems because of Ancestral Bond, this keystone here, which means we can have an unlimited number of summoned totems, but we reserve 100 spirit for each one. So you'll see on this last totem, I'm going to reserve my last 100 spirit. So yeah, so if we didn't have a scepter, we would have to put on a wand, and then we'd have less spirit, so we'd be casting less totems, which is actually a DPS decrease and not actually an increase, even though on the tooltip it would be an increase. So we're actually getting all this spirit from a few places. Obviously, I talked about our Ascendancy here. Then we have 108 on our helmet. We have 55 spirit on our chest. Then you have 100 from the campaign. And then we have 222 on our scepter here. And then for the other stats on this scepter, I have some mana, and I do have levels to all minion skills. Totems are not minions. They are not minion skills. The reason that I have this, you may know if you've watched my videos, but Grim Feast is OP. It gives you a lot of energy shield, and it gives you a lot more energy shield when you scale minion skill levels, because holy, So that's why I have that on here. You can actually get like a +5 to level of all minion skills, and I could actually, this is a corrupted Grim Feast, but I could get it to level 20. I think I could be recovering like 540 to like 600 energy shield or something it was, if I got a +5 and got a level 20 spirit gem for Grim Feast. It's just wild. So that's why I have that on there. I got the discipline skill on my scepter because I thought it would give the totems a lot of energy shield, and it looks like it is, but it's actually only giving it like 200 energy shield very slowly, so this isn't worth it. This was just a very quick buy when I found out that my original plan for this build was kind of not bad, but buggy. I can just put on a scepter that has Malice to spread critical weakness instead of my Eye of Winter. But the original plan for this build, if you've seen my last videos, was this unique scepter that may get fixed still, and it might become part of my build, but it says enemies in your presence resist elemental damage based on their lowest resistance. This is just doesn't work. I found no way that this modifies any kind of resistance value. I tested it. Please go look at my last videos before you comment something about it, or I might actually jump off a bridge, but yeah, this doesn't work, and it would have been really cool because I could have used Despair on the build to lower their Chaos resistance, which would probably become their lowest resistance, and then my lightning damage would be based off of that resistance, so it would be doing a ton of damage. And also, you also gain damage as extra fire damage, so that would be doing very full damage, I guess you could call it. Also, or it just wouldn't be being resisted by an enemy's fire resistance. And then also, these mods would be nice also, and they should work, but they are also another thing that does not work on this scepter with totems. First, all scepter stats that say allies in your presence, well, I guess I haven't tested all of them, but from what I can see from the ones I have tested, which are life regeneration, they don't affect totems, but they should. Because you can see here that in the definition of totems, where it says totems are allied and give the definition of allies, so they should be allies. Yeah, they just don't work on totems at all, like from what I've tested. So hopefully any of this gets fixed, and then all these like really cool ideas that I had for the build and all these like cool scepters I could get, like then I could like do cool things and then the build would be better. But yeah, right now it's kind of buggy, but it still turned out pretty great with what I got going on here. And with the rest of the damage on my build, I'm not just getting 30% more critical damage bonus, I'm actually getting a lot of additive critical damage bonus and critical chance. I split up my curses and my crit chance between my weapon sets. There's probably a lot of videos out on that now, so I don't know if I need to explain it, but I guess basically if you have passive points that you haven't used, you can assign them to a weapon set, and then those passive points can actually be used again on another weapon set, and then you can swap between them to do different things. So one weapon set buffs my curses, and the other weapon set buffs the crit damage of my totems, which is the weapon set that I usually have out. So a lot of critical chance on that first weapon set, critical chance, and then I take these nodes with normal passive points because they have attributes on them, and I don't want to be losing those when I weapon swap. But then also right here, I have some critical damage bonus on the first weapon set. And these trees is faster curse activation, curse duration, curse effect, and AoE size of curses. So yeah. And then also on the first weapon set, I forgot more projectile speed, which I've already explained why that's important. And then more skill effect duration. And it seems like the skill effect duration, if you have it on a specific weapon set, when you cast a skill from that weapon set, it will always keep this skill effect duration, even if you swap to the other weapon set, like for the entire time. So that's pretty interesting. I tested it on totems, and it's 14, my totems last 14 seconds. If I cast it and then cast a curse and don't switch back to my other weapon set, it still lasts 14 seconds. So you can put this on a weapon set. I didn't test it with everything, but it works on the totems, so good enough for me. The weapon that I'm using for my weapon swap is another scepter with like 200 plus spirit, because totems are not like minions, where on the skill screen you can select which weapon they are being reserved like with spirit. So you have to have enough spirit on your weapon swap because otherwise they disappear. So here's 3 totems, and I swap, and they disappear. So that's great, but that is why I have another Scepter. The mods on it really don't matter. It's just it needed 200 spirit on it to be able to apply all these totems still. Then for the skills, I said we have Conductivity to lower enemy lightning resistance. Essence Drain and Contagion, I don't have them leveled up actually at all to do damage. They're simply just to apply a Chaos Dot so that Dark Effigy shoots at them. And by not leveling them up, we have them costing a lot less mana than they could. And I could actually like use an even lower level skill gem if I wanted. And then we have on Flame Wall where... That's not Flame Wall. When you cast it and you shoot a projectile through it, you can see that they get added fire damage. And since the Dark Effigy doesn't do that much projectile damage, this is actually a pretty big boost to the damage. So this is a great thing to have. I only really use it against rares and bosses. And then we have Eye of Winter, where we can look at this one. All this is kind of whatever. All we're really looking at is that it inflicts critical weakness on hit. And you can read what that does, but it basically gives you additive crit chance added on to the spell that, or really anything that you're hitting an enemy with. And Vile Effusion actually, well, you can't see it, but it has a 11% base critical chance. Yeah, it doesn't say it anywhere unless I got rid of all my crit chance. So it's 11% base, and then that's going to add 10% to it, so it's 21% base when they're fully critically weakened. And then also, another bug, on Dark Effigy, the quality is that it has a chance to inflict Withered for 2 seconds on hit. It does not do that at all. It is just bugged, or that is not actually what the quality is supposed to say. I don't know what it should say. But so we apply Withered, which gives us more chaos damage with our Eye of Winter since it's hitting so many times. We have Unleashed, so it shoots out more when we Eye of Winters when we actually cast it. And then we have on Extraction to make it so we do chaos damage with it, because on Withering Touch, we actually have to hit enemies with chaos damage to inflict Withered. So basically throw this out, you lose some life, but you can't kill yourself with it. And since we have, well, you'll see with it, we actually recharge health instead of energy shield, and I'll talk about that. So we get it back, but yeah, so we do hurt ourselves, we can't kill ourselves, and we apply a lot of ways that the enemy can take more damage. So lastly, I talked about my cast speed of my rings. This is a lot of damage increased, especially with the increased bonuses gained from equipped rings from the Ingenuity belt. That's basically, well, we're also getting a lot of life and mana, which is increasing our spirit and increasing our mana, which is giving us more damage and whatnot. And the reason I have this helmet is because of the Scepter that I did show you before. You have to be in an enemy's presence, and presence radius is only 6 meters, as you can see here. So I wanted to double that radius for the build, but now I'm just kind of stuck with this helmet after I figured out that it doesn't work. But it does give 100 spirit, so that's very nice. It gives a lot of cold resistance, which is nice for a unique, because uniques usually do not. Then we do get some evasion rating, which we're actually using on the build that I'll talk about later. So yeah, this is where all the damage is coming from on the build. We do have, what is this, Kitoko's current. These gloves, this will electrocute enemies because we're doing lightning damage on our Dark Effigy. Getting enemies to just sit still so we can hit them is very beneficial to our DPS. Because when they're running around, the totems are missing shots, and sometimes they can bug out and like shoot at the wrong area. So when enemies just sit still, everything just goes way smoother. And for the defenses in the build, I already talked about how our life recharges and not our energy shield. That is from the Eternal Youth Keystone, where our life recharges instead of energy shield, but our life recovery from flasks applies to our energy shield instead. Since we don't have a ton of energy shield, it's always beneficial to just recover it from a flask instead, because when you gotta wait for your energy shield to recharge, that sucks, because there's really nothing you can do when you're stuck in a pack of enemies. And then you got to take a lot of energy shield, start of recharge, a lot of recharge rate, and all this garbage that you don't want to take on the tree. So you just take this, and then you just recover it with the health flask. And then also our belt gives us 20% of flask recovery instantly, so that's very beneficial. So we basically have a bigger effective health pool if we're getting slammed, because we can just snap back some of our health as long as we're being alert and actually doing it. And then as I said, we do have evasion on this build. And that is because I took these nodes here where we get energy shield and evasion. This also gives us 25% reduced effective curses on us. And then this gives us evasion, energy shield. And then this node here, which is basically the Trickster Ascendancy from Path of Exile 1, except a lot weaker version of it because the value is weaker. I think Trickster was per 6 evasion on equipped body armor, where you get 1 energy shield. And then also you just get less evasion on body armor in this game when you're using hybrid evasion energy shield armor. And you don't want to use only evasion because it's still not that much. But between all this evasion, we actually get 50% evasion rating. We only have 3,600 evasion, but this is essentially quote unquote doubling our effective health pool because we only get hit half the time, unless it's from an AoE ability. Then it's like 100% hit rate, but we still have a good health pool, a good energy shield pool to get hit. We even have 500 life. So since our main health pool is energy shield, we're taking all the energy shield nodes that you know and love. I'm not going to reduce my mana with this one. I'm not going to reduce my health with this one. So we're taking the big 60% one over here, 25% plus 1% to all maximum elemental resistances. Can't really make it over here, so this is kind of what we're stuck with. Then we do have the Everlasting Gaze Amulet, which is giving us a lot since it's based on our mana, and it's getting scaled off of all of those nodes, which is pretty nuts. And I did talk about the node over here, but I didn't say how much energy shield I'm actually getting. It's like less than 100. It's kind of insignificant, but we still have 411 on this chest, and it's giving us quite a bit also, along with that amulet. So that is where the health pool is coming from. And again, totems don't have their own defensive stats, so we kind of got to give them some defenses. With our corrupted magic jewels, we have increased totem life on most of them. All the ones that are red, I think, have increased totem life. Where's he at? Where's he at? Over here. You can see 37% from the Adorned if I hover on the side there. So a lot of life there. And then also these nodes over here. This is increased totem damage, which is additive to our spell damage. We just kind of have to take that. Then we get increased totem life by 16%, and then 30% increased totem life and 30% totem duration on this tree. And then the last few honorable mentions, we get some mana regen from these nodes. Mana regen from these nodes. This one's very good. I play WASD now, so it's a lot easier to move all the time. And then I also have these nodes on the tree, so I don't get frozen. I don't need to take this one because I use Blink on the build, so I'm not going to move slowly when I dodge roll. I just teleport, so don't need to take that. Otherwise, I would. So lastly, you can see that we got a lot of resistances. We're basically resistance capped on everything, getting a lot of resistances from our rings and ingenuity. We got a little bit on our boots, along with life and mana on all the rare gear that I get, of course. And then we get a lot of resistance from this helmet that I talked about earlier. And that's basically it. I don't think I have any resistance on a jewel, so it's all coming from our gear. And that's how I get all that. And I actually played with like 50% resistances for a long time in maps. Only yesterday, I actually got to resistance cap with buying the belts and the rings. It was actually a long time to farm out this belt because of some stuff. I had to keep like buying other things. I found out my scepter didn't work. So that's why this video took so long, for Pete's sakes. But I'm very happy with where the build landed. I think that's everything that's explained pretty well. Poison's a problem because my health's low. That's why I use that charm. Health flask, mana flask. I think that's it. So let's go do a map. Okay, I lied. Actually, we do have to go over the supports on these skill gems, don't we? So on Dark Effigy, we have Ironwood, which gives the totems elemental resistances. Yay, more tank. And then Ancestral Urgency for the increased totem placement speed. Arcane Tempo for more cast speed. And then Considered Casting for less cast speed but more damage, which is a DPS increase. And then Inevitable Critical, which is actually something that is a bug that helps us. Supported skills gain 25% increased critical chance every second, up to 100%. And then once that skill does a critical hit, it will lose all of that crit chance, except on Vial of Fusion, it does not lose it. You can clearly see it gain it here. It's kind of hard, but it's at 31% right now. And when I socket the support gem, it keeps flipping it back, but you can see every second it's increasing and stops at 42.35%. Then when you cast Dark Effigy and it starts shooting enemies, this does not go away. Might be a visual bug. I haven't tested it. Seems kind of hard to test. And I just hope it works because it's pretty great. It's really not too many excellent things to put in this last slot. The gem concentrated casting that lowers AoE but increases damage doesn't work on this for some reason. It doesn't raise the DPS, but it does lower the AoE radius. So cool. But yeah. Conductivity, our curse. We have on Decaying Hex, of course, because it is applying another Chaos Dot that Dark Effigy will shoot at. And then we have it's heightened Cursed increases the curse effect. Inspiration makes it cost less since curses cost so much. And then Hex Bloom will spread the curse when you kill an enemy who has the curse on it, up to 3 meters. It doesn't seem like Decaying Hex is also spread to these enemies, but I'm pretty sure Contagion spreads Decaying Hex. I haven't totally tested it out, but that seems to be the case. Essence Drain is just our quickest way to put a Chaos Dot on a small group of enemies or enemies that are chasing us. We have on Chain, so it chains between the enemies, and then Scattershot, so that it will spread out and be a lot easier to hit an enemy instead of like one measly bolt. It will be a good little shotgun spread. And then we have on Hinder, so if enemies are chasing us and we cast it on them, it will slow them down, and we can have some more time to mess around. Contagion, this is just a great way to clear large packs of enemies. A good way to keep the Chaos Dot going in League mechanics when there's tons of stuff spawning, like Breach or Ritual. And I'm pretty sure that I'm very sure that every Chaos Dot that is spread by Contagion is then shot at by Dark Effigy still. So very good, including the poison that is Dark Effigy or Essence Drain is applying from their hits. And on this, to support it, we just have Chaotic Freeze, which will make it so when an enemy has Contagion on them and they are hit by Chaos damage, which is Dark Effigy, it will build up Freeze and then freeze them in place. And then Magnified Effect for more area of effect, so it spreads easier. We already talked about Eye of Winter. Unleash support, so it casts more Eyes of Winter, and then make it do Chaos damage so that Withering Touch can actually apply Withered. For Flame Wall, we aren't casting this very often, but when we are, we just want to kind of spread fire everywhere, so the totems that we're just kind of randomly placing will pick up the fire damage. So we have on Spell Cascade and then Fortress to cover a large amount of ground. And then Fire Mastery, because why not? Because it will increase the added fire damage just a little bit. Then we have on Blink instead of Rolling, because when we get surrounded by a pack of enemies, it can get hard to cast totems and spells and everything, so you just want to bloop out of there real quick. And then we have on Ingenuity, so it lowers its cooldown, so we can use it more. And then for Archmage, a lot of damage. This is, I didn't talk about it, but I feel like it's just known what this does by now. But spells gain 9% of damage as extra lightning damage for each 100 maximum mana that you have. And I get this to 9% by getting it to level 21. If it's at level 20, it will do 8%. And also you got to increase the quality to give it an extra 2%. But you get it to level 21 cheaply and easily by getting any low level spirit gem and putting 20% quality on it and then corrupting it. If it gets the +1 level from corruption, then you just apply a level 19 spirit gem to it, which costs like 10 exalts. And then you put on Lightning Mastery, which gets it to level 21 pretty cheaply. Then for Grim Feast, the only support that matters is 30% increased recovery from life flasks, because this makes our life flask recover 2600 life, but it's our energy shield instead. And then we do have on some like actual life recovery, regenerate 1% of life per second and 4% of life recovered on kill, because the only way that we can recover life right now is with life recharge from Eternal Youth. So this is just a little bit extra so we don't accidentally die from poison or something, hopefully. Okay, that is all the skills and supports, so we can do a map now. Get some more Waystone drop chance. We're cursed with Enfeeble, so we'll do a little bit less damage, but not a big deal. Area level 80. So this map's pretty good for the build, very wide open. So I guess I can try and run through as fast as I can, I guess, to show you the clear speed. But you really just cast some stuff on enemies. Essence Drain, Contagion. When enemies just run off and do who knows what, it does get pretty hard to full clear map. You might miss a rare because they just sprinted off into a corner. The build is definitely not made for pure blaster mapping. I think breaches are, it's probably the worst against breach, so that probably might have just turned off a lot of people to the build right there, since that is the way to juice maps right now, but, you know, I don't care. I like the totems, I like the build, I just did it because it's fun. It's what I always do. You know how everyone says, like, any skill is good if you put a lot of currency into it? Well, yeah, I'm that guy that does that. I will put the most powerful stuff in a build to make literal garbage skills feel good and work good and have fun with them. I'm not too worried about giga blasting. Probably at league start I will be. I'll be doing the best build I can. That's kind of what I did with my demon form. I did tear apart my demon form character for this build because you don't want to level with this build. It is not fun. It is hard. You need expensive gear to level with it. I got to level 74 with the build, and I used it through the campaign. I did do like 3 totems as soon as I was able to get the totem at level 9. But I hit level 74 in maps, and I was like, dang, I need way more levels to make this work as well as I want it to. And I don't want to suffer for 20 levels. I'll just tear apart my demon form character, go grab the max life upgrades. So the demon form will always be bad. Well, it's not too bad, but yeah, I feel it was worth it. I'm much happier with this build actually than demon form, even though it's way slower at clearing maps. Most of the time, you can see I'm just casting down like 2 totems, casting Essence Drain, casting Contagion, just walking around doing that. This map is really easy, not scary. Where's the boss? They're down here. I still, when I'm on my way to a boss, go like, wow, how many Demon Flame stacks do I have? How annoying is this fight gonna be? It's not. She's gonna get cooked. While she spawns, do 3 totems, and then I'll curse her as she's appearing. And then Contagion, Essence Drain, Flame Wall, Eye of Winter, Essence Drain, Contagion, Flame Wall, Eye of Winter. She's shocked, can't move. Contagion, Essence Drain, Flame Wall, Eye of Winter, tier 15 maps. Okay. It's that easy. She really did nothing. Just got destroyed. Definitely better for bossing. And I'll talk about improvements to the build, actually, later. After this. Gotta get that last rare. This is why we have Blink. We're a little bit faster, and it is defensive. I don't think I used it too much in this map. I usually just walk around. Especially, I have less cooldown recovery rate on this map, so don't want to be blinking into a pack of enemies and then dying because of it. So just walk around. Sad there's not more movement skills in the game, but is what it is. But yeah, that's the map. It was very chill. I was able to talk through it the whole time. And everything cleared pretty well. Yeah. Cool. I'm so happy with this build. I was struggling the last week so much trying to make this work as good as I knew it could be. I was in such a sad state when it just wasn't working, but I'm just so happy now, especially because I see more improvements to make on the build, so it's going to be a good week playing with this before I start switching on to something else. Okay, so a few last notes on random things that I tested that don't work. The Blackflame ring that changes your ignite damage from fire to chaos doesn't apply a chaos dot debuff to an enemies. But after thinking about it, I think it should, because ignite is a debuff and it is chaos dot damage then. So I think that should work. And someone brought it up in a stream, but there's a helmet that ignites people that are in your presence. So maybe I could switch to that from this some way, somehow, if they ever make that work. But then I'd have to do a Blackflame ring. It would be a big gear switch. Also, Flame Wall would actually be amazing to just cast then onto enemies. like, because then Flame Wall ignites, very little, like, it does very little damage, but it, like, guarantee ignites, so that would work. Yeah, so that'd be cool, but that doesn't work now. And then also Blasphemy, the spirit gem that makes your curse become an aura around you. You cannot put the decaying, well, you can't put it on there, but the decaying hex support gem doesn't actually work. It doesn't start inflicting the chaos dot to the enemies around you. So that's another thing. If that's a bug and that gets fixed, I will probably use that in some way. Also, this amulet, actually, Archmage and this amulet in general, I expect something around these to be changed in some way, nerfed, because it's used on so many builds. I use it on this build because I thought I'd have a lot of synergy with that one unique scepter that I was showing you, the Sacred Flame. That synergy would work obviously very well with doing chaos damage, lowering chaos damage, applying lightning damage that is also lowered due to that scepter. Well, doing damage based on the lowered resistance of the enemy. So that's why I did all this, but it's just good. Like, Archmage is just good. It's doing more damage than my spell now. How do I access? Oh, I was on the page that accesses those things. You can very much see that the lightning damage is a lot higher than my chaos damage. So yeah, I expect this to get changed. And when it does, or if it doesn't, either way, I'm going to rethink the build a little bit, because if I got +3 levels to all spell skill gems on an amulet, that would be a gigantic damage increase for the build for sure. So I don't know if I want to lose all that energy shield. 4,000 is like pushing it, and I could get rid of my evasion gear for energy shield gear, but then I lose my evasion, so is it worth it? So this is all stuff to think about, but +3 level to all spell skill gems. And then also getting the energy shield mods on the prefixes, increased energy shield and flat energy shield, would help that out. So I wouldn't be like, I would get some back. I'd probably get up to like 5,000 maybe like 4,500 with those prefixes. And then what else? There was something else that I would put on there. I'd put on cast speed. Oh, and spirit on the amulet. So getting more spirit would be good. Including that, there is on PoE2DB, the Grand Spectrum Emerald. 2% increased spirit per socketed Grand Spectrum. I could somehow find ways to socket in 3 of these, which would increase my spirit by 18% then. Yeah, that's how that works, because each one would increase up to 6%, and then I would have 3 of them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how that works. But it would give me like 100 more spirit, which is more, or not more damage, but it is more increased damage from this threaded light, and then it is another totem, which is way more damage against bosses. Not super amazing for mapping. I mean, it can make it, so I put down 2 totems, affect a pack of enemies, and then go over somewhere else and put down 2 totems, and then I don't lose DPS back there. So it is an increase to mapping, but it's a much bigger increase to boss damage, I'd say. So those are some changes. I feel like I had another idea somewhere. Nope. I think that is it. So those are the only ideas now and what I'm considering, but I'm probably going to wait for a patch because I assume GGG is returning from holiday soon, and I want to see what happens around Archmage and this amulet, because it's a very, very, very strong combo. But either way, I don't want it to get nerfed because I'm using it on my build, but if it's nerfed because of Spark users and other builds that go burr, then my build will also get nerfed, even though I'm using that guy. Okay, thanks for watching. If you want me to do these build guides or build talks in a different way, let me know. I don't know exactly how I want to structure videos anymore, because I don't know if people want to watch this. I don't know if they want to play this build. I don't know what they want. I don't know if this is boring. So let me know. And I don't really make entertainment content. I guess that'd be my stream if you like my personality or lack thereof and sarcasm. But yeah, that's what my stream's for, entertainment, I think. And maybe I'll make entertainment videos in the future, but I like making tutorial stuff and explaining my thoughts on the builds that I make. So this is what I'm doing right now. But if you have any ideas, let me know. Comment any questions you got. Like the video if you liked this content then, and subscribe if you want to see more. Yeah. See ya.